You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. Their eyes to see the world they know outside. I can close my eyes and see all that and way beyond. When these trials of life come heavy and these obstacles get hard, feeling like I need some answers, I just go and talk to God. I just go and talk to God when I'm looking for guidance. Need more than sight, need vision, need direction when I'm blind. Then I start that conversation with that voice I hear inside me. And that conversation starts with a voice inside that sounds just like me when I talk to God. You can see God in anything, your reflection. I can find God in anything. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything. When I talk to God, I find God in anything. When I talk to God, my daddy said don't ever assume, ask questions. It's ironic it was that advice that helped the song happen. It was also that advice that led me to my life's blessings. That same advice helped me make it through life's lessons. It was that advice that separates grown-ups away from children. That advice can be the difference from knowing or just believing. It was that advice that brought the gavel down on my decisions of breaking the mental chains of these man-created religions. Cause faith and belief, nonsense, the biggest scam ever. I hate to say it, I split is one hell of a mental illness. Why we do it with these religions? The fact that COVID's killing while all of these guys is missing. Peekaboos, guys playing games with you. I'ma just assume he ain't got no COVID miracles. Maybe he ran out after making the donkey talk. Or some stories about a guy walking on water tides. Simply a distraction to keep you away from you and to look outside for a God when the God is inside of you. When you close your eyes at night and pray to that voice you talking to. When you ready to face the truth, you realize that voice is you. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in.
Here we are. Here we are. What's up, family? Here we are. Here we are. Yo, welcome back. I'm glad y'all are in the place. It's been an eventful day for me. Trying to put some stuff up on the screen for y'all. But how are y'all doing? I hope y'all had a good day. What's good, Chris? Hey man, thanks for catching the playback. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to get over there and check y'all out today. It's you and the bishop. So I'm just glad that this community is coming together and that we out here doing the work. Shout out to the bishop. Shout out to Chief Kali. Shout out to my sister Juana. Shout out to all of those who are breaking down this truth. Even shout out to people like Pastor G, Eugene. They keep coming back to the channel and provide us with good dialogue. As y'all know, I already said on yesterday, we're going to be dealing with issues that relate to melanated people in this country or black people in this country. Since everybody's all conscious about Black History Month and everything, not my thing, but if you're into it or you're just conscious of it, that's why I'm choosing to do some of these topics as to how Christianity has impacted, black people in this country. With that being said, just another update. What's up, Deshaun? Peace. The With that being said, we're going to have Mr. Willie Cartwright in here on next Monday. We are in contact. He is the author of the book From Saved to Sane. All right. That's a good title. And so we have some things up and coming. Y'all continue to like and share the video. What I'm going to do, because this stuff on slavery, we're talking about slavery this week. There is actually a lot of scriptures and subtle nuances to that. This may or may not be y'all's thing, but if you want to know what it says, I can't exhaust them. I can't deal with all of them, but I want to point out a few key things passages I think stood out to me that I think, some of y'all need to know about or may even scratch your head on. What's this? Yeah, you may even scratch your head on it. What's up, Texas guys? You may even scratch your head on it. Things such as, the difference in how Hebrew slaves were treated versus taking them from the nations around them. We're going to get again into that whole corporal punishment thing. And I just got a question. I'm still going to keep asking this question for those who are the Bible believers and support the God of the Bible. Does your God change? Is your God the same yesterday, today, and forever? I'm sure you would say yes. I got a question for you. Is slavery morally reprehensible? It's the reason I keep asking it like that, and I keep putting it in front of the face of those who say the God of the Bible is the creator and that's who we're supposed to follow. Is slavery morally reprehensible? Or was there a time where slavery is okay? You know, was it never okay? Is this kind of slavery okay? I'm sure they will find a reason to say, yeah, this kind of slavery or this or that is okay. So, I had a quote. I really want to put this up here because I had this as a quote hanging outside of my office door when I was a preacher, and I really want to show it to you because I think this quote really helped me, and it says something about who I was and how I reacted to things even when I was a believer. And this is why I think it's relevant because I think the believers need to understand what this means. And I think it's why I was able to come out of the religion once I was presented with evidence to the contrary. All right. And I'm just trying to highlight. It's very hard. I got a MacBook and this touchpad is giving me some issues with the way I do it, I guess. I'm gonna put it up there because I really want y'all to see this. I think it's a good quote. But it may be too many. Okay, let's take that down. All right. One space. Condemnation before investigation. Uh, I'm not sure I can put it up there. I should have. I'm gonna do it like this in the picture form because I want y'all to get the whole thing. And I think Athea said this, so I'm gonna take my time with it. I'm gonna get it up there. Y'all bear with me. And I think you can ponder on it. I'm just gonna put it up here in picture form. That way you will be able to see the total quote. And I think y'all will be able to see why I wanted everybody to observe this, even the Christians. Let me see. When you know it now it doesn't want to find it. All right, let's do it this way. This is the kind of hiccups you run into when you when you're trying to do a show. Isn't it crazy, y'all? I'm coming. I'm coming. Condone. Ah, there it is. Let's copy this and let's send it here. Getting some things done. Y'all bear with me. How was y'all's day? Mine was hectic. I had my lunch, y'all, and I didn't even touch my lunch today, so that's what I'm eating. I got one of them jobs. Sometimes you don't get a lunch break. Let me share my screen, show y'all this quote real quick before we get started. And here, da 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 da. That's the one I want. There it is. Boom. Can y'all see that? Y'all can see that, right? Avoiding truth. This happens so much in religion. This happens in the church. I literally had this hanging as you would come in my office door at a church that I was serving. And I believe this then. I believe this is true now. There is a principle, which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all argument, and which cannot fail to keep man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is condemnation before investigation. That is so true for me. I don't know about y'all, but that's a deep quote for me. I'll stop sharing now. I had to share that with y'all because as a believer, listen, if you are condemning what we are doing here and you know nothing about the topic, stop it. Just stop. All right. If you haven't looked at the Bible verses on slavery, okay, if you think it's okay to say, well, it may not be so, it's okay to talk about it, but don't approach somebody who has actually looked into this stuff, read this stuff, and you know nothing. That's with anything. If you're going to condemn it, know something about it. Know what you're talking about, rather than just talking because you're offended because somebody said something about the sky daddy. All right, you're offended. You can't grow. That's cool. This ain't for you. You're not mature enough to make it. Yes, I'm saying all that because that's really what it boils down to. And I don't care if that's in politics or whatever else. You're just immature. You're not mature enough to sit there and listen to information that may, in fact, contradict what you already know. And I'm on my soapbox a little bit. I'm going to say this. If you are still going to Bible class, okay, like tomorrow night, a lot of y'all, millions of y'all will go to Bible study all across this country, and y'all will sit there and y'all basically will have a testimony session. Oh, well, when it'll be a general topic about how you're supposed to love. Oh yeah, well, this happened to me, and because of love I was able to forgive, blah blah blah. That's not Bible study. Don't none of y'all know. You don't know how we got the Bible. You don't know the passage that you studied. You don't know who wrote the passage. That's Bible study. When you actually study the Bible, okay, what it is, what's in it, what do the words mean, why are they saying it, where's the context, what is the context, what was going on, how does that apply to you, because what they were saying back then don't always apply to you today, really none of it, but that's another show. So if you're going to Bible study and you're continuously only hearing what you already know, you or your teacher or pastor might be guilty of promoting confirmation bias. That's where you only receive information as right, true, correct, and it makes you feel good because it already agrees with what you already know. If I keep telling y'all, or anybody keeps telling you what you already know, no learning is taking place. You're not learning anything. Some of y'all been going to Bible class on Sunday and Wednesday for the last 20, 30, 40 years. And you don't know, you still don't know what I'm about to cover here tonight. You still don't know that the Bible condones slavery. Let that sink in. The Bible, all right, right. Let me go a little higher than the Bible. The God that you serve, the God of the Bible, condones slavery. So if you're a Christian out there and slavery doesn't sit right with you, you think it was always wrong to own another human being, let me talk to those people real quick. If that's the way you feel, you need to stay tuned because you're going to see just how okay slavery was with the God of the Bible. And when I say he regulated it, they talk about it. We watched a video on last night, gotquestions.com, and just go to their website or go to YouTube, gotquestions.com, answer on slavery, and you'll be able to see it. Because they will highlight all the peaches and cream stuff about the Bible, but nobody wants to talk about the dark side of it. And yes, it is a dark side. It's a horrible side. It's deplorable. Why? It's hard for the believer to understand what I'm going to say, but to the non-believer it's easy because it was written by man. And to the believer, I have to ask you, what would prove to you that this Bible was created by men? Not some divine force off in the sky, not something outside of time, space, and matter that you can't know anyway. What is it? Okay. What is it that would show you, that would prove to you that the Bible is flawed, and it doesn't come from a divine source. It comes from people like you and me. It comes from humans. So, what I'm going to do here, we're going to have our Bible study tonight. Now, if you're a believer and you see this, or maybe you catch it on the replay, however you get it before 6 or 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Why? Because you need to go up in there and you need to ask your preachers some questions. Many of you are not asking enough questions. You don't even know what questions to even form. How about this? Some of you have been so conditioned, depending on your generation, you can't even ask a question, because if you got questions, they say things like, if you got questions, you got doubts. That's what I was told in the church. I had a question about something, and I was still totally a believer. Old guy gonna tell me, well, if you got questions, you got doubts. Like that was supposed to, it was supposed to make me feel like, I better put that question back, or I should feel bad or embarrassed for even using my cognitive ability that supposedly this God gave me. I mean, if I got a question, he knew I was going to have it. I used to tell people at the congregation that grew up and they were taught not to question God and don't ask what. First of all, you're asking the man a question. And then I would tell them, if you got a question and you believe in God, then who better to ask the question? Because isn't God going to have the answer? Christians, you ought to be saying something. You ought to be saying something, because when you pray, you believe that he's going to answer. Go ahead. That question you got, go ahead and pray about it. Let's see what answer you get. I'm gonna bring an answer to some things hopefully tonight about this condoning of slavery. Now, because I'll do the best I can to watch the chat, but because, like I said, this is really going to be a lot of reading, and I'll just stop as I go along. But I have a passage in Exodus I want to share. I'm looking at my tabs. Leviticus. Then I'll put these back into the Old Testament. Give me a second to move this tab over here, because I'm gonna go from the Old Testament to the New Testament. Okay, I'm going from the Old Testament to the New Testament. Make no mistake, it's all horrible when it comes to slavery. If y'all think of anything, I want to put anything in the chat. Shout out to Chris again, another supporter of the channel. Y'all let me know what y'all think of the thumbnails that have been coming up. I like them. And and shout out to the person that's helping me with this. So y'all can give some feedback, say something in the chat, because again, I'm still looking to scale up and do some different things with my channel. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube, please do that and hit the like button. Put that in chat. We need to hit this like button. Y'all got to get me going. All right. Without further ado, we're gonna go over the Exodus. I think I was there on last night. I did invite some guests, just so y'all know. I don't have any response. I don't think anybody's gonna join as of right now, because I haven't heard from them. But I did invite some folks. So give me a second. I hope y'all are able to read what's up on the screen, and we're gonna have some Bible study. We're gonna have some Bible study. All right, we are in Exodus 21, and remember the context. We are actually coming right out of Exodus 20. Exodus 20 is where we get the 10 commandments, for those who are familiar. So God was clearly saying, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that. Don't you do it, you better not do it. Don't do it. Just don't. Just stop. Just I know y'all doing that, that's y'all practice, but no, I say that's wrong. Don't do it. Why am I stressing it like that? Because how easy would it have been for the creator of the universe, the all-powerful, omniscient, omnipresent God, to just say, don't own people? Easy, right? So, Christian, how do you feel about slavery? Let's check this out, y'all. So I'm gonna just read. I think I gotta go. I gotta get all the way down here, y'all. We got a little bit of reading. I'm going to probably stop at verse 21. So I'm going from Exodus 21 1, and I'm going all the way to 21. We're just going to read and recognize. I tried to, you know what? I think I want to do this in the NIV. I'll do this in the NIV. That's one of the most widely used versions of the Bible in the United States. I know a lot of us grew up on KJV. I'm gonna use NIV for the sake of it being easier for some folk to read. These are the laws. I mean, verse 1. These are the laws you are to set before them. By the way, if y'all could, I can't see the chat while I'm reading, but if something comes up, one of y'all, I know maybe Texas or Chris, maybe one of y'all get in touch with me and let me know somehow what's going on, because I gotta just do this Bible study mode. All right, Exodus 21. There are laws you are to set. These are the laws you are to set before them. That's God talking and telling Moses what he got to do, right? If you buy a Hebrew servant, not talking about any other, we're talking about those that are of the same blood or people or culture as right here as these Hebrews. So now he's talking about them. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve you for 6 years. But in the 7th year, he shall go free without paying anything. Just in case you're wondering, that's that whole year Jubilee. There is some debate about when the Jubilee year was coming, because the common understanding is, let's say it was 2 years till that 7th year showed up. It's year 5 and it's going to be here year Jubilee. Well, they go free on that year. You don't count that year. So that means if you took a Hebrew slave on the 5th year of Jubilee, that means they would serve you. Let's say it was at the beginning of the 5th year, they would serve you all that 5th year, all that 6th year, because when that 7th year, that is the year they go free. And well, let's keep reading just so you understand that context. If he comes alone, now this is the Hebrew say, if he comes alone, he is to go free alone. But if he has a wife, when he comes, she is to go with him. Okay. Verse 4. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the woman and her children shall belong to her master, and only the man shall go free. Now, that is for the Hebrew slaves, and that's screwed up. I mean, owning a person screwed up, but we just going deeper into it. That's screwed up. You're going to give this person that came to work for you, work as your slave, you're gonna present him with a woman. They're gonna be involved with each other, catch feelings. They got kids, and then guess what? Now, heck, on a year of Jubilee or whatever, or it's time for him to go free. There's a process though where he can stay, but he still can't take them with him. There is no, I didn't read it. Y'all can, believers can correct me. There is no process for him to be able to take his wife and kids with him that were the wife that was given to him, unless he can only take the wife that he came there. He was all, unless he was already married and came into that situation. That's messed up. I saw my phone do something. Let me see. Okay. All right. Verse 4. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons and daughters. Okay, I read that. Verse 5. But if the servant declares, I love my master and my wife and children, and do not want to go free. Now, maybe there are some people who don't love their kids and don't love their spouse. Maybe that's the case. But I'm just saying, look at this. Is this not screwed up to y'all? But this is the regulation. Now, listen, just in the previous chapter, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery. He even went so far as to point out, don't bear false witness. That means don't tell a lie against somebody. But here it is in the situation where an individual has born children in this situation, When the time comes for him to be set free, it's like, hey man, it's been a good 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, maybe even 6 years. If it started at the beginning, it's been some good years, but now it's the seventh year. You can go free. All right, bet. And then you look over. Don't forget about the law though. You see your wife and your kids, they stay. You can go though. You can go though, man. You free. You good. You good. But they stay. This is the God of the Bible and his regulation of slavery, his condoning of slavery. Let that sink in. Because I didn't write this. I'm just reading it. All right, let's continue. The servant, y'all see that? Verse 6. Then his master must take him before the judges. He shall take him to the door or the doorpost and pierce his ear with an awl. Then he will be his servant for life. Okay, that's for the Hebrew slave. It's worse for the ones that are not Hebrew. I think I got a passage in all of this where they could actually will their slaves to their children. In other words, they weren't getting out of slavery. If you had a slave and they was on, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let me read this, but this is horrible, y'all. Let me double check the chat myself. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and keep going. Verse number 7. If a man sells his daughter as a servant, she is not to go free as males servants do. So if you a female, and you a Hebrew female, it gets even worse. Because on the 7th year, or I think that's right. I think she still don't get to go free. She just stuck. She's if you're a female, you're stuck. Nah, actually, I know y'all see it. I saw that too. And it's all a beard. That's actually a gray hair because I've been going like this here. But anyway, nah, it's nothing in my beard. All right, check this out. Where was I? Verse, if a man sells his daughter as a servant. Okay, verse 8. Check this out. Verse 8. If she does not please the master who has selected her for himself, he must let her be redeemed. He has no right to sell her to foreigners because he has broken faith with her. Now, what does it mean by being redeemed? What does that mean? So this is still a Hebrew. A Hebrew slave could be redeemed. And let me go back to the screen. I'm looking at myself. A Hebrew slave could be redeemed by another Hebrew. They could pay money and they could get her out of that situation. But now she belongs to whoever paid for her. She belongs to the next person. So, but let me see. No right to sell her foreigners. But they couldn't sell the Hebrew slave, okay, to other nations. It would be like this. So if the Hebrews were let's say the people who they tell y'all are the Jewish people today, let's say they look like them and they own slaves that were them, y'all feel me? They could sell that slave, that female slave, but they could only sell it to people who were them or look like them. They couldn't sell that slave to somebody else. Y'all got it? I think y'all got it. I think I'm clear enough on that. All right. Verse 9. If he selects her for his son, he must grant her the rights of a daughter. Now, to Christians, they like to paint this and they talk about, oh, slaves got family rights and all this type of stuff. And the family, and they were, their status was brought up, blah 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 blah. But if you a female, what does that even mean? It doesn't make your situation any better. All because you can't own property. All it means is you got to stay. You got a husband, and all it means is if he does well, If he does well, you will do well because it had to be the male, right? Is that patriotic type of society, the male. If he does well, then the women back then probably felt like, well, I'm doing all right because considering the situation and how women are considered property, if you got a man and then he starts to do well, that's great, right? But what if he don't do well? What if he fall into debt? Then he would be that same slave that was we talked about earlier, selling himself. The good news is when your husband come out because you were already married to him, you get to leave too, unless you fall into a less likely situation. So let me continue to break this down a little bit. Now, let's see. Verse 10, if he marries another woman, he must not deprive the first one of her food, clothing, and marital rights. If he marries another woman, if he marries another woman, if he marries another woman, he must not deprive the first one of. Now, the reason I continue to repeat that is not so much I'm not against if you got more than one spouse, if that's your thing, that's what you want to do, that's fine. I'm stressing this for those who are believers and you come to the New Testament acting like God condemned polygamy. He never did. Go find me the passage in the New Testament where he forbid you to have more than one wife. Go find it. You might be surprised it's not there. So marries another woman, right? Keep that in mind. If he does not provide her with these three things, she is to go free without any payment of money. That's the rule. That's the rule. It got this is the best you can hope for. He don't provide you with any of this, then gets go free. But wait a minute. If you a woman living back then, that's not much of a choice because you couldn't go anywhere. Nobody respected you. You weren't going. We weren't going to be able to own any land. You didn't have any. You didn't have nothing. So your best bet was to probably just stick around and take what you was getting. All right, verse 11. If he does not provide with, okay, go free without any pay. All right, here we go. We going into the injuries. Note and pay attention to the general statements, and then it gets very specific about who it's talking about. Eli just converted me by accident. How many wives can Hey, another Joe, whatever another mean. So you might have two and you want another. You might have three and you want another. Hey, why stop there? Solomon had 700 and 300 girls on the side. So hey, that's what the Bible's doing. Anyway, and by the way, that didn't really happen. It's a lie. But I'm just saying that's what it says. And it says a whole bunch of lies. Okay, Exodus 21:12. Anyone who strikes a person with a fatal blow is to be put to death. Now, you can say that this may have had to do with the slaves or not, but I see that even as an economic thing. You got to think you're in a society, you got animals, so there was even penalties if you hurt somebody's animals or if you dug a hole and somebody's animal fell in it and they got hurt because now that person's production and their way of living has been damaged. So you had to pay that person some type of restitution or whatever. But in this case, it seems to not be out of being a good person or for the well-being of the person, but rather if you kill them, that's one less person to work. And now everything has to work a little bit harder, or you're doing something to your wealth. And you would have to read all these different verses to understand further why I'm saying that. Verse 13. However, if it is not done intentionally, but God lets it happen, you can't make this up. You cannot make this up. I won't detour, but just think about what it just said. Talk about striking, then the word of God comes back and said, however, if it's not done intentionally, listen to what it says, but God lets it happen. Just put that, I think that that's a good verse when you consider the question of evil in the world. I know that's not my topic tonight, but Exodus 21:13. Let's remember that for another time. However, if it is, I'm reading again, if it is not done intentionally, but God lets it happen, they are to flee to a place I will designate. You see, so something will happen and you might still need to get out of Dodge, okay? Because somebody's family might have it out for you. Look at what this says up here. Anyone who strikes a person with a fatal blow is to be put to death. However, if it is not done until you accidentally kill somebody, it was an accident, it was a car accident in our case, but whatever the accident would be back then, it happened, you didn't mean for it to happen, but you still got to leave town. Why? I don't know. I don't know. We ain't gonna go off into that rabbit trail. But if anyone schemes, you plan, premeditated. If anyone schemes and kills somebody deliberately, that person is to be taken from my altar and put to death. All right. Okay, cool. Death penalty. I see that. Anyone who attacks, listen to this. Anyone who attacks their father or mother is to be put to death. Now, when it says attacks or kills, now that is somebody's interpretation. I don't know what your Bible says or what some others might say. I'm just saying some say something different, but we read in the NIV. Anyone who kidnaps someone is to be put to death, whether the victim has been sold or is still in the kidnapper's possession. So this is talking about the person that takes them. Now, the Hebrews weren't supposed to kidnap and gain their slaves, much like how we know some certain people were put into slavery here in the Americas, but they most certainly could go to a slave auction because that's what they had for people here in Americas. They put you up there, they humiliate you, and people actually started bidding on you. That would not have been against God's law, because he's going to talk about buying them from other nations that were around the Israelites. All right. 17. Anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. Now, wait a minute. Before, if the child killed a parent or whatever, okay, we see that. Curses their father or mother. By the way, I got a question I want y'all to think on. Let me see what y'all saying in here. By the way, I got a question. I want y'all to think on. Corporal punishment. Should we do it? Because a lot of us do it because of what the Bible says. Should we engage in corporal punishment? Has it helped us? Has it hurt us? I'm just saying, not the topic, but it may come back out, and I may even bring this up next week. I'm just saying, I'm trying to ask a hard question here. Are we supposed to be spanking, beating, whipping, whatever the kids? All right, just think about it. Let's think about it. All right. Anyone who curses their father or mother will be put to death. What do they mean by curses? What are they saying here? Well, you know what? I don't want to go and look it up because I got so many other ones. But just know it's not talking about killing them. Even if your child does something very, very, very bad, cuss you out. Let's say that's what they do. They cuss you out. Should you stone that child to death? Look at what this says. They are to be put to death. I think that's extreme, y'all. I think that's a little extreme. Maybe not a little, but a lot. All right, verse 18. If people quarrel and one person hits another with a stone or with the fist, and the victim does not die, but is confined to bed. This is just talking about some general stuff, y'all, general fights and stuff. The one who struck the blow will not be held liable if the other can get up and walk around outside with the staff. However, the guilty party must pay the injured person for any loss of time and see that the victim is completely healed. Loss of time. See, it's going right back to the money, to the money. So they not really in trouble. He done stole on the boy done been knocked out or whatever. And all right, well, the guilty party, how long was he down? Okay, I don't know. He made $20 an hour. Okay, well, he was out of work one day. Okay, well, you owe him, that much work. You owe him that much money. You know what I'm saying? That's what you owe him for the day. Because you knocked the boy out. All right. This is dealing with general stuff. We get into it. Now here we go. This is different. Notice the difference here. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. But they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. Now let that sink in for a minute. Let me see what the comments are saying so quick. Slavery has a little spiritual meaning. Man, I thought about it. God doesn't kill when he kills. All right, Carl, I'm gonna have to come check you out later. Let me get some. So y'all see, this is a passage. Y'all check this one out. Share it with believing your believing friends and what have you. I'm going to move on to Leviticus, and I'm trying to see how much of this I want. Yeah. Obey a tree. Yeah. I don't want to. All right. Yeah. We're going to Leviticus 25 and 39. Is that already sharing? Stop sharing. Is that Carl Taylor? Yeah, that's Carl. That's Carl. Are you asking me, Joe? If you asking me, yeah, that's Carl in here. That Carl. Carl, good people though. Y'all give Carl a break for a minute. Carl, good people. All right. Let me share the next passage with y'all. Leviticus 25. I think I'm gonna start at verse 39. No, I'm sorry, 38, because it announces who it is. Okay, Leviticus 25, 38. Let me make sure y'all seeing that. Okay, Leviticus 25, 38. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. Here we go. If any of your fellow Israelites become poor and sell themselves to you, do not make them work as, I think the KJV says bond servants or whatever, but a bond servant, it's a little different. It's a lot different. Okay. It's a lot different. Don't make them work as slaves. Now, in the NIV, it just comes out and says it. So the Hebrew situation is probably a bit more like the indentured servitude. Okay. Y'all give me 1 second. It's a bit more like the indentured servitude. But let's see here. That's for the Hebrews. Anybody else, you're this slave that they're not supposed to work as, that you would fall under this category if you're not one of the Hebrews. Verse 40, they are to be treated as hired workers or temporary residents among you. They are to work for you until the year of Jubilee. Now, that's what I was talking about earlier. Depending on where they are in counting the year of Jubilee, if it was the first year, like let's say they just had one, they finished their 7th year and they start over, they're on year 1. If you sell your stuff as a Hebrew into slavery in year one, or you're going to be there for at least the next 6 years, because when the seventh year roll around, they have to let you go free. And that's if sin. Hold up, y'all. Hold up. That last year, the Hebrew male can go free. He can go with a wife if he brought one into the slavery situation. If he was given one, no. Wife, kids, or whatever you got from that union, they got to stay, but you can go. Or he can choose to just remain for life, not just a little longer, but for life, by having his master take him down to the judges and they put the earring thing in his ear. But look at this, y'all. It says they are to be treated as hired workers or temporary residents. That's not you. If they were to make you a slave, this is only for the Hebrews. But they try to pass this off, the laws for Hebrew slaves, as that would have been the law for all the nations around them. Not so. Wouldn't have been like that. Then he says, then they that and their children are to be released, and they go back to their own clans and to the property of their ancestors. That's for the Hebrews. That's not for everybody. Why? Here it is. Because the Israelites are my servants, whom I brought out of Egypt. They must not be sold as slaves. What does it sound like, y'all? What does it sound like? Be honest. Black History Month. What does it sound like? This it sounds like somebody has a racist agenda, because and reason I say that is because everything in this law, when you look at it, it'll promote them, it'll build them up, but it's designed to keep everybody else around them that aren't them out. It's designed to keep everybody that are not them out. You understand that? And that's what you see in this model. What am I saying? Yes, I'm saying the Old Testament especially has a blueprint for racism. It's a racist model. All right. Because the Israelites are my servants, whom I brought out of Egypt. They must not be sold as slaves. But it's okay for everybody else. All right. Do not rule over them ruthlessly, but fear your God. This is talking to Hebrews. Your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them, you may buy slaves. I said it was a racist agenda, and I don't get too much clearer or more racist than that verse I just read. Let me read that again. Your male and female slaves are to come from the nations. That's the children. That word nations there means children, or the people around, not children in the sense of just little kids, but I mean the offspring of those people around you. That's where you can take slaves from. Okay. Don't miss that. That's important. That is some racist crap. All right. You may also buy some of the temporary residents living among you and members of their clans born in your country, and they will become your property. Your property. Keep in mind that verse right there is not talking about those of Hebrew descent. It's talking about those who are not Hebrews, but were either living among them. Maybe they had been captured in a war or whatever, or they were just around, living and communicating with the people. You can take slaves from those. Why? Why the difference? Even if you're going to regulate slavery, I'd still be up here talking about how bad slavery is. But he went through the trouble to make sure those of the same nationality did not enslave others of the same nation, or the Hebrews in the same way. It's not an equal footing in slavery in this Bible. it's a racist agenda. You can now here's where it gets even more screwed up, y'all. Listen at this. Let me read 45 go into 46 so it flows better. You may also buy some of the temporary residents living among you and members of their clans born in your country, and they will become your property. Verse 46, you can bequeath them to your children as inherited property and can make them slaves for life. You can bequeath them to your children as inherited property and can make them slaves for life. But, but, here's the exception to the rule. You must not rule over your fellow Israelites ruthlessly. You can do this to them, but don't do it to us. Y'all, are y'all feeling me? Are y'all feeling me? What's this? What we got? What we got? What we got? All right, I see add to the stream. I'm going to add Texas to the stream. And while that's, I'll probably wait because if I go to the other screen, I won't be able to see. And Texas, the circle is up, so maybe the internet moving a little bit slow. What's going on, Tex?
Hey, I'm trying to get an avatar going. I'm kind of slow and I can't see how to do that. It says
I think if you click on the three buttons, if you can see your picture at the bottom, right?
I see the three buttons where it says more.
Okay. I think you can. Let me see.
When I click, it says edit name, edit audio avatar.
That's it. So when you click on that, if you're like on your if you're on your computer, it'll let you choose some kind of picture or whatever, and then you'll get the circle, and the circle will vibrate whenever you speak. But you get to choose a picture from like your photo library after that.
Okay, let me see. Okay, did it work? Maybe not.
No, not yet.
Okay,
Not yet.
I called myself doing what
because I'll see it when you do the picture, it'll change over and I'll see the picture.
Okay. Does it do it automatically? Because I click.
Yeah, I don't do it much. Let me.
It says this avatar will be used when your camera is off.
All right. So once you got it, you can hit stop camera and it'll show that picture. That's what it was.
Okay, so let me, where it says cam at the bottom, hit the camera thing.
Yeah, just stop cam.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
There it is, right there.
Okay. All right.
So what's up?
All right. I just had something. I didn't mean to interrupt your flow, but
it's all good. I ain't really got one. Not tonight.
Of course.
After my keys got locked in the car, I was like, oh, I can't believe this.
Oh, I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you made it because we would have been disappointed. But you know what I thought about? I said, you know, how slavery is okay according to God. It seems like, you know, he's giving all these different he's telling us how telling them how slavery need to be done. And I just thought about some other things. I said, you know, what were all of the Jewish laws? And so I looked up, it's called the 613 mitzvot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it's called. And so I said, let me just, because I haven't studied this at all. I said, let me just scroll through. You're talking about.
Say that again. It's breaking up.
For the Jewish people, okay?
Rewind what you said. Rewind what you said when you said you're talking about, and it cut out on my end.
The 613 laws for the Jewish people. 613 laws. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good. Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about 613 laws. So I said, let me look and see just to get an idea of what these laws. Let me just scroll through. I haven't even gone through all of the 613 ones. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I just came across, let's see, of course, it says to love no other gods. It says, and I'm just scrolling down. Um, it says to love your neighbor as yourself. All right. Not to
Mm-hmm.
embarrass others. Wow. That's in Leviticus 19:17. Y'all, like I said, I have not looked up these verses, but I'm just going by what this is saying from James Madison University of the 613 misvats. But okay, so I guess what I'm saying, okay, so it says don't embarrass others, but it's okay to have slaves. you know, I mean, it just sounds a bit hypocritical. Don't, you can beat people and you can practically kill people and you can separate people from their children, but don't eat pork. you
Right,
know,
right,
it's,
right.
and it also says not to oppress the weak in Exodus 22:21. I find
Mm,
that a bit hypocritical. Don't oppress the weak, but you can have slaves and treat them any kind of way.
right.
Don't
Yeah,
don't slander. Don't bear a grudge. Okay? Don't You can't have a
mm,
grudge against somebody,
but you can
but
own
yeah, but you can own them.
them.
You can own them. And of course, like you were saying, like with women, I mean, come on. Come on. I mean, so
Yeah.
once the man who's finished his slave his time in slavery, he gets to, if he didn't come in with the wife, he gets to leave, but he must leave his wife and children actually with the master. So my point
Mm-hmm.
is, what on earth do we think is going to happen to that woman? Because of course we know what's going to happen to her. That's going to be old boy's play toy. He's going to get to do whatever he wants because guess what? Is she's
His.
property anyway.
She's property. Right.
So that's basically, I just wanted to come on and just share that it just seems very hypocritical for the God of the Bible to have come up with 613 laws and for one of them not to have been do not enslave any person or any human being. I just
I-
think that will be on the list. Since shellfish, don't eat shellfish is on the list. You think that don't enslave your brothers or sisters, or don't enslave people
People,
are
humans.
there. Thank you.
Humans, because and that's a great point you bring up, because that's it. That's what I want people to wrestle with. I want believers to wrestle with that here you have a God that thought enough, to say don't eat pork, to say don't hold a grudge, to say, don't lie.
Yeah.
But owning people and the thing. And then he goes through the trouble of talking about how it's done when one of your fellow brethren, they look, I'm trying to be politically correct, but y'all get what I'm saying. They look like you, they talk like you, they're in your culture, they're in your community, they're your ethnicity. Now those you can't treat them like slaves.
Come
They
on.
can work for you. It
Yeah.
said it right there. Treat them as hired servants. So that right there, the Bible knows the difference between servitude or hired servants and slaves. There's a difference. If you are not a Hebrew, you are a freaking slave.
Mm.
Like slave in the sense that kind of like how we know it. Even if they want to say it's not as harsh as chattel slavery here in the minute. The thing was, like I read in Exodus 21:21,
Mm.
you could beat them down as long as 2 days went by and you were able to get up and do what you need to do, then they didn't suffer any loss. But even then, when I was reading this stuff, to me it all went back to the economics of the whole thing. Like if the slave is down for longer than 2 days, you're not pulling your weight around the camp, because all the work that needs to get done, you need slaves to do it. So to me, when I'm reading this stuff, I don't know if it was like that for you as I was reading it, but it seemed to go right back to the money.
Mm, mm. Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, you can't really deny that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, Eli.
I I think it goes back to the money for what they're saying about, if they recover, and it talks about, it also talked about, if I don't think I read it here, maybe I read that, because if you did, there were other laws. Let's say you dug a ditch and your neighbor's ox fell in the ditch and hurt its leg and now it can't plow a field. Well, you had to compensate, for that.
Yeah,
um but the whole slave thing, when it came to humans, it really didn't make any sense. It really hurts. And I think the believers need to look at this, because like I said in the first video, these were actual verses I did not really study. I didn't even mess with that much. um and I was of the mindset of, they call it divine command. I
mm,
was of the mindset that if God said it, then it's right.
right.
I mean, why wouldn't it be? Because you already have this in your mind. There is a being that is all powerful. So if he said, and he knows everything, so if he said these people were wrong and needed to be punished, then who was
That's it.
I?
That's it. Exactly. Exactly. Check this out, Eli. Check this out. Um, don't cut your hair at the temples. Don't shave your beard. Okay.
Hmm.
I mean, come on now. Come on. Come on. Come on. It's
Yeah.
just little. And I'm bringing out these little titty tatty things because it's like, okay. Does that really matter in the grand scheme of things? Does it really matter if you cut your hair at the temples or if you cut your hair from the back? I mean, does it really matter?
Oh, I just saw one on the list. I just want to look it up right quick and see if it's
Yeah.
talking about what I think it's talking about. Deuteronomy uh 13:9. Let me see if that's talking about what I think it's talking about. This is interesting. By the way, y'all, if y'all watching, go ahead, like the video, hit that subscribe on the YouTube thing. I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. Deuteronomy 13 and verse 9. Okay, let me see what that says. One of them long verses. Okay. But thou shalt truly kill in thy hand and be a friend. Nah, it says something about the missionary there. Not to love the missionary. All right, I ain't gonna get into it. The point is, y'all, he has so many things here. I'm trying to find another one that we would be surprised. Let's see. What about? Oh man.
There's so many specifics, and like we were taught, God is very specific, especially like in the New Testament as to how to be saved. God's very specific as to what you need to do, very specific. Well, in the same way, he could have been very specific about slavery and how to treat people. And he talked about loving your neighbor as yourself. Well, if you love your neighbor as yourself, to me that should cover slavery. But what's wrong with putting that down there? If that's so specific, that you can also be specific about slavery, if you can write down how to cut somebody's hair.
Right, right. Here's one that I heard a little bit growing up. Number 70 on that list you're probably looking at. It says, no, 71. Women must not wear men's clothes.
Yeah.
Women must not wear men's clothes. Now, to be fair to the context, I'll do a little bit on this. And then I think Joe put up Numbers 31:18. I need to go over there and see what that says. But what I used to hear on this, so if men wear it, then the women shouldn't be wearing it. That was the way I heard that presented in the common day, or this today's context. Then later with study, I found out, okay, when you look at how the people dressed back then, they pretty much look the same. But what the text was talking about was how a man had to gird up his gown things that they used to wear, and he wore a sword on his side. So women were not to wear a sword, is what it was. What it was talking about, protection or weapon, because they were considered property. But men could protect themselves that way, and maybe they needed it. But here's where I'm going with that. This is the God that is the same yesterday, today, and forever. I'm wondering what this means for females in the military.
Yeah.
Females today that would bear arms. That this would be them. They shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't have. Oh, what about our female police officers?
Yeah.
They shouldn't be doing that for a profession. So that, I think that's something that's relevant for those today. I'm gonna
Well,
look and see.
they would say that, well, we're under a new covenant. So, we're under, so
Oh,
that doesn't count because we are under a new covenant. But my point is that, what somebody was saying the other night, God is God is the same. It doesn't, I think you were saying that it doesn't matter whether or not it's Old Testament, New Testament, it's God. God is the same as he was in the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's the same God. And so
mhm.
I think you were saying that last night. And I totally agree with that. When people say, well, the God, now we're New Testament Christians. And of course that's what we were taught. You're New
Oh
Testament.
yeah.
But the fact that I'm worshiping a God that has mandated such horrific things. We just kind of we're just taught to push that under the rug. We're taught to push it to the side. Yes, God commanded people to be murdered, and children and beasts of the field and everybody to be killed, the women, the children. Yes, God authorized that. But we're under a new commandment. Okay, that might be the case, but it still doesn't change the God. It doesn't change the God. And so that's all I wanted to share.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And you can hang in there, or you can cut out at any time. I'm just gonna
Okay.
keep bringing this up. I brought up on the screen Numbers 31:18. That was a text that Joe Smith um, put in the chat, because it was dealing with what you were saying, Texas, about the women and what was going to happen to those women. This happened many times in the Bible. It says, but all the women, children, this is when they would go in and kill their families and just utterly destroy stuff. But all the women, children that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. I mean, that I don't,
Ooh,
that's pretty plain.
yeah.
That's because why even go into, why have that portion there of not knowing a man in it? Like what is that all about? It's already a sexual thing.
Right. Yeah,
Hey,
I agree.
hey,
I
that
agree.
that
It's just not. It's ugly. The bottom
is
line, it's
yeah.
ugly. It's just not that we should
Well,
be proud of.
you said it's not. I think
It's
it
not
cut out. I
it's
couldn't
not
hear.
something that we should be proud of. That the God that we serve, you know, it's just not something that we should be proud of, and we don't focus on that. People, I don't, practice religion, but we would never focus on those horrific actions that God mandated. We would talk about it, but you just skirt right through it like nothing.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, he's all perfect.
Yeah,
I mean, what can you say? He's a perfect being. So even if you couldn't explain it,
right.
there has to be something
Yes.
that being knows that you don't know, that makes what seems
Right.
not okay somehow be okay.
We don't know
Eh,
the mind of God. We don't know the mind of God.
Right. And then we make up things, and I'll put this on the screen. I'll put this on the screen, but it's a story. I had a church member, And this is how easy we make up stuff like, oh, God works in mysterious ways and things like that. We come up with these sayings and we say them enough, and for a long enough generation, so for 20 years, somebody that doesn't read their Bible will come along and think that it must say that in there, that he works in mysterious ways. I bring that up because true story. I had a member here in this city, and I was on Facebook, and she said to somebody else in order to give them encouragement, well, you know what the Bible says? If God closed one door, he'll open another. It says that nowhere. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that. And I remember pulling her to the side, and she was grateful that I pointed that out to her, that it's not there. But when I was doing this, I was just thinking about how far gone we must be as believers, even at that time, and we haven't searched any of this stuff out yet. We think that it's actually in there. It never says it. And I told her, I said, you know what? If God closed the door, then how about that? Why can't that just be it? You may just have to wait in the hall. The door's closed. Don't say he gonna open another door for you. That's what I was telling her then. If the door is closed, that's just it. Now, maybe if he opens something, you can't shed it, but we know where that goes. But I put this on the screen because for those who want to talk about the Old and the New Testament, and I'm coming to the New Testament because the New Testament has some messed up stuff. It's a little past 8. I'm probably gonna go ahead and jump to the New Testament after this. Malachi 3:6 says, "For I am the Lord, I change not." And he gives the reasons or the evidence of him not changing. That's why the children of Israel were still in existence and they were not overcome. So because he's the same, he does not change. To those that will say the New Testament, okay, you may have a law, but I'm talking about your unchangeable God, your unchangeable God. And this unchangeable God, this individual, let me take this off, y'all. 1 second. This individual is a perfect, all-knowing being. So he still condones something. If you're a Christian, I ask you the question again. Is slavery morally reprehensible? Because if it is, I got some more questions for you. Because if you say slavery is morally reprehensible, we got to go a little up to another level. I really want somebody to, as a believer, to let me know if you believe that. Was it always reprehensible, and etc. Peace, man. What's up, Joanne? Peace. So let's go to the New Testament, y'all, because we are getting into the 8 o'clock hour. I'm trying to think which one I want to do first. Let me do this one. Just point this out, that it says this about Jesus Christ. I'll put this up as a banner. I'm just going to build that, and then we're going to go to maybe 2 passages in the New Testament. If y'all have any questions, y'all put them in the chat, or anything y'all want me to deal with when we come back on Thursday to end this topic, y'all let me know. Let's put this one up. Here's another thing about this Jesus, about this God. The same yesterday. That'll be your Old Testament. You can put that there. Today, you can put that with the right now. And then forever, you can put that in the future. In other words, if you say slavery is morally reprehensible, and it always has been, then why is your God regulating it if it's morally reprehensible, when he had all them 613 other laws, as Texas just showed us? He had all those other laws where he could just say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. But he couldn't tell you not to own people. And then even in the video we watched yesterday, this is common. If you're a non-believer, watch for this. When they come with the okie doke, they always want to say the society that this Bible came to, they were already deep within slavery as a way of life. So what? You talking about somebody that supposedly broke the laws of nature, parted the Red Sea for 1 million people to walk through. Okay, you talking about somebody that killed all the firstborn of animal and humans back in Egypt, supposedly. You talking about a God that caused fire to be mingled with hell that fell from the sky, but it's too much for him to just say you can't own people. You can have them as hired servants. You pay them for their work. You know, you can have hired service, but he didn't do that. He wasn't good enough to do that. This shows us, y'all, that we are of a higher morality than the God of the Bible. The God of the Bible is crap. Now, if you felt some type of way when I said that, let's get deep in your study. Let me let me say again, make it the God of the Bible is crap. Okay. Go and listen to what Richard Dawkins said about him. He is every bit misogynistic, you know, he is every bit pedophilic, he is every bit filicidal, genocidal, all of that stuff. Anything you can think of, your God, the God of the Bible, is crap. I'll just say it like that. All right, all right, all right. I'm sorry. All right, where are we? I'm New Testament. Let's go. Let's go to Ephesians first, y'all. We're gonna go to Ephesians. I'm almost done here. Let me turn this banner off. Let's go to Ephesians, and we're gonna get ready to wrap this thing up for tonight. Thank y'all for joining. Y'all go ahead and share this out, y'all. And y'all just been supporting so much, and it's really encouraging me. I'm gonna keep going. I just hope that I'm giving y'all some content you can use, and it's something you can grasp so that you can share it with your family or whomever. I'm not just doing this because I have some kind of hatred or anything for Christian. No, I'm doing this because I want somebody to investigate. I want somebody to question. I want somebody to come out of that bondage. You think you free, but you're really not. I don't know if she really said this, but it was rumored that some lady in our history said, I freed thousands of slaves and could have freed so many more if only they knew they were slaves. I think that applies to you, Christian. If you're a Christian, you think you're free, but you're really not. All right. Ephesians. All right, all right. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it be well with thee. Thou mayest live long on the earth. I know a lot of y'all probably heard that growing up. You want to live long, you better obey your mama and daddy. Verse 4, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath. I don't know if they read that, but bringing them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Here's where it gets crazy. Servants, be obedient to them which are your masters, according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in singleness of heart. How? As unto Christ. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Check this out. Check this out. If you're a believer, think about it like this. Think about how you as a believer think of Christ. All right. What could Christ ask you to do? I'm just talking to the believers. What could Christ, a being that you believe is God, that means he also knows everything, can't be wrong, he's perfect, he never sinned. Now think about this. What could, as a believer, what could Christ possibly ask of you that in your mind, knowing him to be who he is, that you could refuse, or that you would say no, or you would say, no, Jesus, that ain't right. Now, if you can't say that to Christ, and the Bible says, where is it? It says, as unto Christ. You got to do all these things as unto Christ, not with eye service, as men pleasers. So you're not just doing it to please the master or those watching or the peers. It's not people. No, you're doing it to please God. But God tells you to treat this person like it was Jesus. Treat your master. Let this sink in. Treat your master like it's Jesus talking to you. Let that sink in for a minute. If you a believer, you know good and doggone well, at least in today's context, you ain't gonna be nobody's slave, and if somebody start talking to you wrong, you gonna tell them where they can go. Believers joke all day. Y'all joke on Facebook about I ain't Jesus, and you know, you can catch these hands and whatever other silly junk y'all say being believers. I mean, I can say that. I'm not a believer. Other people can say that, but y'all claim to be following Christ. There's just some things you can't do. And if you say, oh, well, it's not like slavery and it's no different than having a job. Okay. To the believers, look at this. Servants, be obedient, watch this, to them that are your supervisors according to the flesh, with fear and trembling and singleness of heart, as unto Christ. So to the believer, you got a supervisor out there you don't really care for? Have you had one? Are you the supervisor people don't really care for? I'm just saying, because if you say that it's not about slavery here, and this verse will be applicable to people that have jobs, I'm just saying, then you ought to be treating your supervisor and acting and responding to your supervisor as if Christ is asking you. I'm gonna tell you right now, supervisor, no supervisor, you're not gonna disrespect me. And that's the difference between a job and being a slave. I can leave. Slaves cannot. You don't get that luxury. And if you ran away as a slave, we got a whole book in the New Testament, the book of Philemon. Dude was a Christian. He ran away from his Christian master, and here come Paul telling him to go back. I'm going to get into that probably on Thursday. But we got a whole book about that story. A Christian master as a Christian slave, the slave runs away, and they make him go back. All right, so anyway, Ephesians says, servants, be good to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling and singleness of heart, as unto Christ. Now, I'm going to let that one sink in because I wanted to read Colossians. Colossians is even worse, well, somewhat worse. Let's get this Colossians text up. And at least this way, y'all know where they at. And I will be reading this from the NIV. Colossians 3:22. Colossians 3:22, and we going into the first verse of chapter 4. Why does it sound like I'm hearing this for the first? Because we didn't really look at these. Nobody talked about these verses in the Church of Christ like this. So to the church, I'm gonna challenge them first. That's what I came out from. The Church of Christ, y'all ain't talking about this. Y'all ain't talking about this. Now, I respect my brothers that come on here all the time. Eugene, Church of Christ. George G, Church of Christ. Those two. Richie, good to see you, Richie, but Richie's not from the Church of Christ. Those two, though, Gene and G, are from my background. Nobody's talking about this. Maybe I get into it now, but nobody's talking about this as I came through. All right, let me read Colossians, y'all. Slaves, obey your earthly masters. In what? everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you and to curry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. This is deep, y'all. This is so freaking crazy. Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything. Well, how did the Ephesian writer, how did Paul tell you? As unto Christ. There is nothing that Christ can probably ask a believer that you wouldn't do. As a believer, if Christ asks you to do something, put it now. If you're a believer and you watching this, put the one thing Christ could ask you to do, and you would say no. I challenge you. I challenge you, Richie, you on here. Put the one thing Christ could ask you to do, and you would say no. Richie, I don't know any other believers that believe probably the way you do. I see Carl on here, but we know my boy Carl got a whole different perspective. So I'm just saying, if you're a believer, what's the one thing that Christ could ask you or tell you to do, and you will actually say no? Consider that. Consider that. Slade, I'm gonna read this again because this is crazy. And yeah, I get it, Texas, because it's like I'm reading this for the first time too. I read it many times, but it feels horrible. Slaves, obey your earthly masters and everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you and to curry their favor, but with sincerity of you gotta want to do it. Be for real and you're doing it. They tell you to go over there and lick up that doo-doo from the dog. You supposed to, yes, I want to do that. Let me keep reading. Colossians 3, verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. So you working for human masters, but your motivation for how good you work for these human masters has to do with your love for the God that you can't see, right? So the way you love him, you're going to work for them because you know he's watching, and that's how you got to behave. You got to behave right. You better act right because replaying. Are y'all getting any technical difficulties on y'all end? I'm just checking. Y'all getting any technical difficulties on y'all? And if y'all can hear me fine, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me fine. I'm going to continue, but I hope y'all are able to hear me before I continue reading this passage. Just give me a 1. I just need somebody. Let me know if you can hear me well so I'll know whether or not I'm having technical difficulties on my end or not. I'm always tripping off that part. I'll read some comments. Y'all hearing me? Okay. I'll put this. Let me put this comment up. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Sorry I'm late. I've always tripped off that part though. Everyone focuses on the Hebrew man. What about the Hebrew woman slave? It appears they have zero rights and no way out. For the most part, yeah. The only right that a female slave kind of had is if the husband sold himself into slavery and they were in fact Hebrew and he was already married to her, then when he leaves, she gets to go with him. That was pretty much the only benefit. If he came, that was pretty much it. Wasn't really much. So let me finish this text now that I know y'all can hear me. Okay, Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Since you know that, y'all, this is freaking sick. It's like I've read this stuff so many times, but it's sickening reading it now. It's just sick. All right. I'm gonna get through it. I'm gonna get over it. Colossians 3:24. Since you know that you will receive an inheritance from your Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. I need a moment. Dang. What type of fool was I? What type really? What type really? What type of fool was I to preach this stuff? Oh, because I really genuinely believe there was this guy keeping tabs on everything. This Father God. I really believe that. Look at this crap. Verse 25. Anyone who does wrong will be repaid for their wrongs, and there is no favoritism. Oh, really? There's no favoritism? Chapter 4 and verse 1. Masters. These are the slave owners, y'all. Provide your slaves with what is right and fair, because you know that you have a master down the street in the State Department. Where does master they got? Yeah, no doubt. Conveniently, he is located in heaven. The master that the masters have is conveniently located in heaven. Let's go back to it right quick. This is what he says to them. He said all that to the slaves. You gotta work like this. You gotta work like you really mean it. You gotta really put that effort in there. And when you put that effort in there, even if you do a good job because you really mean it, and you're treating your master and working for your master, because you're not really working for the master, you're working for God, and God sees what's going on. Now, you masters, listen up. Provide your slave with what is right and fair, because you know that you also have a master in heaven. He didn't even go through the trouble of saying, hey man, if you beat that slave, I'm gonna whoop you with many stripes in hell. If you don't pay that slave right, it won't be a year out right here on earth. Your business is gonna go to shambles. And none of that was really happening. It's a make-believe thing. Do y'all see? Do you see? Do you see, believer? This is crap. I'm asking the believers, I'm challenging you. Maybe this one too strong for y'all. Is slavery morally reprehensible? Has it always been morally wrong? When did it change? But I digress a little bit. Let me see. Was Colossians, I think, was the one I wanted to end on tonight. But did y'all see that? Did y'all feel what this? Do y'all feel what this is saying? I'm sorry. I'm gonna read this one more time and I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna read the comments and I'm gonna get out of here. But this is crazy. Colossians 3:22. Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you and to curry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. Whatever you do, work with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. Anyone who does wrong will be repaid their wrongs, and there is no favoritism. Masters, provide your slaves with what is right and fair, because you know that you have a master in heaven. You was teaching what I was taught, so it became a belief due to lack of knowledge. Exactly, sis. I was talking about this on the way home, because we believe this stuff. Okay, we were taught it by the people that were caring for it. We had no reason to think our parents were lying. I still don't say that they were lying. I'm just saying they didn't know. And they come from an era where to ask a question would get you beat with a rod. You didn't ask no questions. I told y'all that story a few weeks ago. I literally took a trip with my grandmother, who is in her mid to late 70s. And she knows where I am now because she was the one responsible pretty much for bringing me to the Churches of Christ. And so we were on this 5-hour ride. And I just asked, I say, did y'all not have any questions about some of the stuff y'all read? Like when you read it or they taught you, did it not strike you as odd? And I was driving, but I could feel her eyes looking at me like, questions? She said, boy, you don't ask no questions. She said, your mouth would be on that floor if you asked a question. Believers, are you afraid to ask the question? Are you afraid to answer the questions? Are you afraid of this topic because it's going to show that your God is crap? How did that feel? I hope it hurt. I hope it hurt. Hey, y'all. Listen, y'all hit the subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go over there. That is important. Hit that like, but go over there to that YouTube. Build that up. That is extremely important. What are we doing? I'm going to close this topic out. No show tomorrow is Wednesday night. They got to go to Bible study and ask these questions. Okay. And then they got to come back on Thursday and bring me some answers. All right. Richie, you too. Come on, Richie. I'm got to get out of here tonight, but hey, I can see you. I sent you the link, Richie. I sent it in a group, so you got it if you wanted to. And I know y'all see that right here. That's a hair. That's actually my beard. It's not something in my beard. So let me see what this comes. They just word salad their way to not answering, but that's what they do. But I'm gonna be pressing on the questions. If you haven't been here or you just joining us, y'all share this out. Go ahead, hit that like button. On the Facebook, I have the thing up for I have the event up on Facebook for Thursday. Y'all go ahead and hit the like button and share that out. If you're seeing that in your feed, if you're not, when I hit the edit button and I try to tag people, it's really random at the tag. So if you want it, maybe tell me to tag you specifically, but it's a bit of a task because it only lets me tag 100 people at a time. And I'm really trying to get the show out there. So I need y'all help sharing this information. Richie said, there is a time to speak and a time to listen. I'm listening. Richie, I respect that. Thank you very much for listening because some won't listen. That reminds me, before I get out of here, I'm going to go in by showing y'all my quote. This used to hang. It was stuck on my door. I put this on my door because I got this from a Christian thing. What was I studying? What was that guy name? He's dead now. Anyway, I can't call it. Avoiding truth. And this is what I feel happens with some believers. I'm not saying this is you, Richie. I'm just saying, you know what? Whoever it's for, if the shoe fits, you wear it. There is a principle, which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all argument, and which cannot fail to keep man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is condemnation before investigation. So do us a favor, y'all. Do us a favor. Stop condemning. And you haven't done any sort of research. You haven't looked into this topic. You're hearing it for the first time. Don't be so anxious to come and defend Sky Daddy. Just first look at the information, then you can decide. Just like Richie said, let me go ahead and put that up. I respect that, Richie. There's a time to speak and a time to listen. Some believers been listening for 30, however years, going to their church and don't know nothing. Why don't you come on over here to when the pastor has questions and we gonna get into some real stuff. With that being said, everybody, truth is my only religion. I'm about to get up out of here. Y'all like the video. If y'all want to support, please go ahead and make sure that you do that. You see it scrolling at the bottom. Peace and love.
You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything. Some people open up their eyes to see the world they know outside. I can close my eyes and see all that and way beyond. When these trials in life come heavy and these obstacles get hard, feeling like I need some answers, I just go and talk to God. I just go and talk to God when I'm looking for guidance. Need more than sight, need vision, need direction when I'm blinded. Then I start that conversation with that voice I hear inside me, and that conversation starts with a voice inside that sounds just like me when I talk to God. You can see God in anything, your reflection. I can find God in anything. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything. When I talk to God, find God in anything. When I talk to God. My daddy said don't never assume, ask questions. It's ironic it was that advice that helped the song happen. It was also that advice that led me to my life's blessings. That same advice helped me make it through life's lessons. It was that advice that separates grown-ups away from children. That advice can be the difference from knowing or just believing. It was that advice that brought the gavel down on my decision of breaking the mental chains of these man-created religions. Cause faith and belief, nonsense, the biggest scam ever. I hate to say it, I swear it's one hell of a mental illness. Why we do it with these religions? The fact that COVID's killing while all of these guys is missing. Peekaboos, guys playing games with you. I'ma just assume he ain't got no COVID miracles. Maybe he ran out after making the donkey talk. Or some stories about a guy walking on water tides. Simply a distraction to keep you away from you and to look outside for a God when the God is inside of you. When you close your eyes at night to pray to that voice you talking to. When you ready to face the truth, you realize that voice is you. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in.